Ah! Ah, who are you?
I'm an analogy for government.
Good analogy.
Pay for my birth control!
What?
Do it! Her and her friends are the majority of the voting population now, so she gets to do this.
Why is her contraception my responsibility?
Are you serious? He's taking away my reproductive freedom!
What?
Stop taking away her reproductive freedom, Seamus!
What are you talking about?
I am so sick of you right-wing bullies pushing everyone else around!
Yes, Seamus!
I'm not a right-winger. One does not have to be a right-winger to realize your sex life is not my financial concern.
Ugh, you're so anti-woman. It's healthcare.
Her healthcare is also not my responsibility.
It's sexist for you not to pay for women's birth control when healthcare plans cover men's Viagra.
That's a terrible comparison. Viagra isn't birth control, it's a drug for sexual potency. The more accurate comparison would be male contraception. They're called condoms, and guess what? The government doesn't pay for them. And you don't see me sitting here whining about it. I mean, you do see me sitting here whining about a lot of stuff, just about every week, actually. But not about that.
Look, would you rather pay for her birth control or pay for her child when she's on welfare?
Oh, you have high hopes for this one.
Yeah! You're so irresponsible! Either pay for birth control, or you'll have to pay for a child! It's simple!
Wait, hold on. Say that again.
Either pay for birth control, or you'll have to pay for a child!
Okay, now say that while holding a mirror.
Either pay for birth control, or you'll have to pay for a child! Are you suggesting I should be responsible for myself? Or at the very least can't use government to force others to take care of me? How do you do that? I mean, what if I can't afford birth control?
Is this really something I'm being asked to explain? You don't have sex!
How do you do that?
Well, I mean, I don't have sex with anyone because I'm Catholic.
And no one has sex with him because he's an animator.
And a libertarian. You never got his money.
Don't worry, we'll just take out a loan. That's mostly how I get my money anyway. Someone in the future will pay for it.
But who from the future will pay for it?
All the kids you'll end up having.
I'm not reading that.
Read it, damn it!
I, Seamus Coughlin, through my own free will, publicly apologize for my misogynistic comments. Please send your money to patreon.com/Freedom Toons so that I can pay reparations by funding women's birth control. Thank you.
The Tom Woods Show, episode 922.
Prepare to set fire to the index card of allowable opinion. Your daily dose of liberty education starts here. The Tom Woods Show.
Hey everybody, Tom Woods here. Seamus Coughlin is with me, and man, this guy is something else. Young guy, and very, very productive, and very talented. He's an animator who has a YouTube channel, Freedom Toons, of course not Tunes, he's not a musician, Toons, because they're cartoons, Freedom Toons, and they're great. They're short, they're punchy, they're funny, they make great libertarian points. He's totally sound. I just love the guy. Somebody wrote and said, you should have this guy on. I don't know this guy. Well, look, it's my fault that I didn't know this guy. I should have. He's putting out great stuff, and he deserves your attention and support. Check him out. We're going to link to what he's up to at tomwoods.com/922. Seamus, welcome to the show.
Real good to be here, Tom.
I just spent the morning watching your videos, and I would watch one, and then I would say, all right, just one more. And then there's another one that's great, another one that's great. I loved the one where you had Julie Borowski doing one of the voices. It was leftism then and now. Just how much it's changed from 2008 to 2016.
Oh, I know.
It was so amazing. Things that we feared might happen 8 years ago. They said, oh, we would never do that.
Yep.
And then they're more than doing it 8 years later.
Freedom Toons.
I don't trust liberals. I think you guys are socialists.
Oh my gosh, you are seriously so paranoid to believe that. We aren't socialists just because we want bigger government. Socialism is seizing the means of production, not any and all government spending. Oh my gosh, you seriously don't see that socialism works? What's wrong with you? Socialism just means government spending. Are you an anarchist or something?
Look, I don't agree with it, but if two gay people want to live together or act as a couple, I could care less. I just don't want them forcing Christian photographers to participate in their weddings or sue Christian bakers for not catering a ceremony their religion prohibits them from taking part in.
You are seriously so paranoid. That doesn't happen and it never will. It's just a rumor spread by bigots like you to promote fear of gay tolerance. If you don't bake cakes for gay couples, you are seriously bigoted, and I don't feel bad for you if you get fined out of business or thrown in jail. It's asinine to say that supporting due process for those accused of terrorism means you somehow support the terrorist. Everyone should be seen as innocent until proven guilty, and if we don't support due process for those accused of even the worst crimes, we don't support it for anyone. If you support due process for people accused of rape, that just means you think rape is okay. It should be guilty until proven innocent, you rape apologist.
You think everything's bigotry. Before we know it, just being straight will be considered homophobic.
You are seriously so dumb. Oh my gosh. Such an insane slippery slope fallacy. We're never going to call somebody a bigot for not wanting to have sex with a man. If you won't have sex with a transgender woman, you're transphobic. Political correctness isn't about censorship. That's seriously so paranoid. Honestly, why don't you ever trust me?
So well done.
Thank you.
There are so many videos that I loved and that I want to talk about. How many of them have you made, first of all? Have you kept count?
That's an interesting question. First of all, I'd like to thank you for such kind words and for enjoying the videos. I think I have about 50 videos that are public right now on YouTube for the Freedom Toons channel specifically. So somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay, well, they are absolutely hilarious. The one you did,
you're too kind.
The one you did with the straw men debating each other.
Oh, thank you.
I was actually, it's very hard to get me to laugh out loud. I mean, people who listen to the show know there are a couple people on this show who can make me do it. But it's very, I laugh politely, but for me to involuntarily, spontaneously laugh, you got to be really darn good. And I was laughing hard by the end of that video.
Thank you.
So,
you're
all right.
flattering me, sir.
All right, so
I appreciate that. There will be more of those, by the way.
Okay.
Many more debates with straw men.
Oh, it was such a brilliant idea. And you've actually drawn two figures, actually literally made out of straw. So great. All right, let's get into, of course, I want to get into some specific videos that you've done. But how'd you get into this?
Oh, that's a good question. So when I was about 18 years old, I had just finished up high school. And throughout my high school career, I had been freelancing a little bit within the animation scene in the Chicagoland area. And so I had a teacher who sort of pushed me to start my own small business while I attended community college. And I stumbled across a friend and client, who's now a friend, I should say, and they asked me to produce some animated videos for their conservative news aggregate website. They were called TCS News, and unfortunately, they no longer exist. But I ended up producing a few animated shorts for them on the liberal media, which I've recently rebooted on my YouTube channel. It's called The Echo Chamber with Dr. Mac. And I produced for them for a little while, and long story short, they ended up merging their website with a fellow from Fox News named Kevin Jackson, and I was working with all of them for a little while, but I kind of wanted to walk away from it because I figured I was still young enough where I had the leverage to produce my own work without somebody else writing it or influencing my ability to create or like limiting my creative freedom. So I just started putting videos on YouTube whenever I had the time to make one. And it evolved into what it is today.
Am I allowed to tell people your age?
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, so you're 22 years old, and yet you're making videos that I, as a guy who is literally twice your age, think are highly valuable because they're funny, they're well done, but also the points they make are absolutely spot on. And you've covered all kinds of topics, and frankly, some controversial topics. Which is the one that's gotten you the most views?
That's a good question. I think the video that has the most views presently is the one I did with Julie Borowski, Leftism Then Versus Now. I believe that one's just shy of 300,000 views.
So give an example of something, because some people listening might wonder, well, what exactly really could have changed from 2008, 2016?
Oh, man.
Give an example from that video so people know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so there's a number of examples. I think one in particular that is an observation I sort of came up with on my own, and a lot of them are, but I think I may have been the first person to point this out specifically, is that back in 2008, 2007, or somewhere in that ballpark, there were a lot of conservative types saying the gay agenda is so out of control, as they called it. Soon just being heterosexual will be considered homophobic. And of course, that was met with, you're crazy. It was met with scoffs. And I was actually in the camp of, that's a little ridiculous. You're obviously exaggerating. Now, today in 2016, there are people within the trans rights community saying that as a man, if you will not engage in sexual relations with a transgendered woman, in other words, a man who believes they're a woman, then you're a bigot.
And then on a, let's say, less extreme level, there was the whole thing about, look, I'm all for gay marriage if that's what people want, but I don't like the idea that a baker should have to bake a cake, or a photographer have to take pictures if that's against their views. And the person said, oh, come on, that'll never happen.
Yep, that will never happen. And it's funny because obviously people who are more left-leaning wrote in the comments that I was strawmanning them, but every single one of the arguments I used in that video is an argument I've heard somewhere. I just connected them because I noticed the contradictions there, and a lot of people do. And I remember when I was in high school doing a research project on this for the debate club about gay marriage, and I remember sort of being of the thought pattern that, it's not hurting anyone, even though I disagree with it, let them do it. But I stumbled across the argument that they might be able to force Christian bakers or photographers to involve themselves in their wedding. And I came across 5 or 6 articles from people on the left saying that's never going to happen. It's just a conservative boogeyman. No one's ever going to be forced to participate in a wedding ceremony they don't want to be a part of. And then today it's you're a bigot if you don't want to participate in a wedding ceremony.
Yeah, exactly. Like what they said 8 years ago never happened.
Exactly.
Exactly the opposite. So you've done that. Then you have maybe there was more than one, but I saw one you did on feminism.
Ooh.
Where your character was arguing that I could make an equally compelling case that there's sexism against men.
Yes.
And let me hear that. And it actually sounded to me, looking at the different statistic that you had, like you had maybe borrowed some of this from the men's rights movement material.
Yeah, so a little bit of the material was from the men's rights movement. Of course, I don't consider myself to be a men's rights activist by any stretch, but I will say there are a number of arguments they make about men making up about 93% of workplace fatalities, losing their children in courts, getting longer sentences than women for the same crimes. And one thing I've noticed is that there's a double standard of evidence when it comes to the third wave feminist theory. And it is as follows. If a woman offers up some evidence of her having to experience certain difficulties in life, the feminist movement says that's proof that she's a member of an oppressed class. When a man offers up the same level of difficulty or an even harsher difficulty, we're told to believe that that's just a product of the same patriarchal structures that give him privilege, which is totally ridiculous. And so I thought it would be funny to display how ridiculous that logic is, to flip it on its head and do the reverse. Well, we could do the same circular theory about men being oppressed, offer up all the difficulties that men face as evidence, and then tell women whenever they experience anything like the wage gap, for example, that that's just the system of oppression that benefits them backfiring.
Society hates women! We live under patriarchy!
Huh. I don't know. I mean, I've always felt most responsible adults kind of see it as a grass is greener thing. Men have it hard in some areas, women have it hard in other areas.
No, that's not true because there's no such thing as sexism against men.
How do you figure?
Because society hates women.
Why do you think that?
Because it's never sexist against men.
Uh-huh.
Look at all these reasons that prove society is unfair to women. This proves we live under patriarchy.
Look at all these ways in which society is unfair to men.
Those don't count. If society exists to privilege men and oppress women, those things can't be the result of sexism.
No. If society exists to privilege men and oppress women, those things wouldn't happen. All you're doing is rejecting evidence that men have it difficult in some areas so that you won't have to adjust your original theory that sexism only happens to women. That's called circular reasoning. Look, I can do it too. We live under matriarchy. Look at all these reasons why. See how hard men have it?
You're selectively editing out the negatives of being a woman. Look at all these ways in which women have a hard time.
Oh, sweetie, no, those don't count because we live under matriarchy.
By definition, sexism against women doesn't count. It's really problematic that you don't recognize this. And the fact that so many women deny the matriarchy exists is really just proof of matriarchy itself.
Oh, please, give me one example of why men have it hard, besides all of the examples you've given.
Okay, men make up 93% of workplace fatalities, and no one ever talks about it.
Well, yeah, but that's only because women are kept out of dangerous careers as a result of sexism.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. I just pointed out one of the most horrific examples of sexism that exists against men, and you still find a way to make women the victims.
We are the victims! It's called benevolent sexism.
Benevolent sexism? You mean female privilege?
It's not privilege. It's just being given a nicer and easier way through life as a result of the way you were born.
Yeah, okay, two can play that game. Give me an example of sexism against women.
The wage gap?
The wage gap only happens because men are discouraged from taking care of their children and working less hours. The wage gap is actually just benevolent sexism towards men. Poor me.
No! Benevolent sexism against men can't exist because we live under a patriarchy. How loudly do I have to say this before it becomes true? You know what? I don't need this. I have to go anyway. I'm late for a seminar I'm attending.
What's the seminar about?
Why gendered language is problematic. So stop mansplaining at me so I can go be a patriarchy-fighting feminist.
I see you have a video, this one I did not get to, on Jordan Peterson. Only 2 minutes, 21 seconds. Tell me what I'm going to find in that.
Hopefully a good hearty laugh. My impression of Jordan Peterson, first and foremost, he's a man I greatly, tremendously admire. And I think I did a good job satirizing him a little bit while also making it clear that I certainly support him above the neo-progressive leftists trying to destroy him.
And just to make clear, he's been on this show a couple of times, but maybe not everybody knows who he is. But he's at, I think, the University of Toronto, and he used to be at Harvard. He's a professor of psychology, and he's gotten into trouble because he won't use genderless pronouns. Or, it's not genderless. I guess it's particular. You get to pick your pronoun. Who even the heck knows?
The new genders.
Yeah.
There are many of them.
Yeah.
Roughly 57, I believe.
Yeah. And I remember on the show, he said, it seems like some of these genders, I don't think they have any actual members. Like, I think they're only theoretical. I don't think there are any people in some of these groupings. But anyway, he's been put upon. But I personally think he has become more self-consciously ideological, because he was not known, and I don't think he would describe himself as a conservative, but I think in light of what's happened to him, he's certainly become a firebrand about what's happening at universities, and he was not that way before. So that's great that you has he seen it?
Yes, he actually shared it. So the guy has a good sense of humor about himself.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And my gosh, 169,000 views.
Yes,
that
sir.
is fantastic.
In the justice system, words that are offensive are considered especially heinous. In Canada, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious microaggressions are members of an elite squad known as the Special Snowflakes Unit. These are their stories.
Okay, I identify as a half-eaten Go-Gurt tube, so you need to refer to me as that.
What? No, I'm not. I'm not doing it.
What say you for your abuse of children?
Humans aren't Go-Gurt tubes, okay?
Bigot! We've brought a Go-Gurt studies expert to dispel your myths with a long but meaningless word salad.
And actually, it comes down to the fact that the science about causality, about, in essence, biology being linked to determining whether or not you're a Go-Gurt tube, requires us to move outside the current realm. And all we have in this realm is quasi-experimentation. We can't actually build studies where we manipulate the chromosomal and hormonal environment. And so since we can't remove bigotry and anti-Go-Gurtism from the production of identity, we can't actually reach conclusions about what we take to be differences between tubes of Go-Gurt and human beings.
Your Honor, we can't believe in this nonsense. You think she's telling the truth? Yeah, just like little Red Riding Hood walking down a path to Grandma's house. But then you get there, and it's not Grandma. It's a wolf with great big teeth so he can eat you. And he gobbles you up. Well, that's how you get Nazi Germany. And I'm not doing it.
We sentence you to re-education.
Ow.
Good thing we took care of that problem before it got out of hand.
I know. If we allow speech like that, we might end up under fascist tyranny.
Oh, can you imagine?
Now, I noticed that the view numbers, it must be annoying to you. Like sometimes when I send out a lot of emails as doing email marketing, and I do my best with good subject lines, but I kind of hope that if I keep on always delivering, like yesterday, or no, as a matter of fact, just today, I delivered this great email about this professor, temporary assistant professor at the University of Hawaii, who was arguing that white people should pretty much step down from their positions in the different departments. And so then, you know, of course, and the way math is taught is racist. And then I saw her on a blog. She was given a guest blog post to talk about her PhD dissertation, which she did. And then somebody, went to the trouble of actually reading it. I mean, wouldn't you be, if you had a PhD and you'd written a dissertation, wouldn't you be dancing a jig if somebody took the time to actually read it? So somebody read it and said, I like it very much. Here are a few of my questions that I would have for you. Oh. And she responded by saying that, because I'm not kidding, that you're a man, I'm a woman, and I believe it is oppressive for you to be asking me these questions. I am not kidding. So I sent that out to my email list. And even though I can't always think of the best subject lines, I kind of hope that by now I have a good enough track record with my people that what matters is not the subject line, but the from line. If it's from Tom Woods, you'll say, yes, this guy, he's batting at least, 85%. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and open this thing. So I bet you would feel like after a while, look, I produce such good videos. Who cares if my title isn't the snappiest? You got to just click. It's only going to take a couple minutes of your time. And yet the view numbers are so variable. Does that drive you crazy?
A little bit. So I think part of it is that you never want to feel entitled to the views because,
right?
Then you sort of begin to lose appreciation for the fans. So I'm happy that I'm getting any numbers on the videos, frankly, because when I started out, I was getting none. And of course, I'm not accusing you, by the way, of feeling entitled to views. I guess it's just an issue of knowing that some things are going to blow up with the right audience and some things aren't. I know that what I try to do is release a video every 2 weeks. And so sometimes what happens is when you're trying to produce content regularly, you're not always going to be on your A game.
No, that's right. That's very, very hard. But, well, for me, you're right. It's not so much a matter of taking for granted that, of course everybody's going to want to open my email. It's one of these things where I feel like maybe you don't know you want to read this till after you've read it.
Yes.
And like with your videos, people are going to love them if they'll just click play. And you know that after the fact, they'll say, I'm glad I clicked play. So just click play already, will you?
Yeah, I think part of it is that I used to get really discouraged when I would release a video that would get a lot of views and then the next video after it wouldn't get as many. But then I realized over time that, every now and then you're going to sort of hit your stride and get a bunch of views on a particular video, and then it's going to drive a number of donations to your Patreon, and you're going to get a bunch of new subscribers. So I don't let it bother me as much anymore. I guess the best example is, I think last summer or 2 summers ago, I made a video poking fun at Planned Parenthood, and it got about 50,000 views. Now it's up to almost 200,000 views, but it was my most viewed video at the time. And the next video I released after that got maybe 1,000 or 2,000 views. And so I was very discouraged, and I thought I'm never going to get back to that point where I can pull on that level of viewership. But then later on, I released a few other videos that really resonated with a particular niche audience, and then they drove traffic to my channel and subscribed. And so I guess I've realized that over time, it's just going to fluctuate. But the beautiful thing about YouTube is you have returning subscribers. So even if they're not always going to watch every single one of your videos, there's some percentage of people that can be counted on to watch them, and that's only going to increase as time goes on, hopefully. So I guess I try to look at the glass half full. And that was a particularly windy response for that phrase, but that's really all I should have said. Is I kind of like to look at the glass half full in that respect in terms of the views I'm getting.
Well, I've got what you're hearing in the background there is I have your YouTube channel right up here on my computer because I want to run through some of the titles. And as I was trying to scroll through, I think I actually accidentally clicked on one. But so you got an extra view for nothing.
Nice.
But yeah. But I noticed that they're not. I mean, the longest one is barely over 4 minutes. They tend to be between 2 and 3.
Yes.
And that's perfect. That's perfect. I mean, a lot of my video that I did, obviously not animated, called Interview with a Zombie from 2010. Mm-hmm. I did that. You should watch this when we're done.
Yeah.
Interviewwithazombie.com. I actually even bought the domain name, redirects to the video. But I had my friend Bob Murphy dress up as a zombie, and the idea was this zombie is the host of a television talk show. And the idea is that he invites authors onto the show and talks about their books. But we decided that he could say only one word at a time. So he would hold up the book and say, book, and then I would talk about the book. But then, instead of addressing my arguments, he would say, racism. And then I'd say, well, it's not really. And then he'd say, neo-Confederate, all these left-wing buzzwords. And so the point of the video should be obvious, that this is how a zombie would interview me, but this is also pretty much how a mainstream media figure would interview me. So it was a way of getting at them before they could get at me. But the problem with the video is it's just under 8 minutes. It's too long.
Oh, yeah.
It goes on too long. But it was because at the time I felt like, but I got to get all my arguments in.
Yeah.
I still was a newbie. I didn't realize that if you want to get more arguments in, put a link in the description of the video to an article or something.
Absolutely.
Keep the video to the link that you're keeping them to. That's very smart.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Part of it is just an economic issue. I mean, animation is so time consuming.
Oh, and that's true too. Yeah.
But I should also mention that, of course, there's always this understanding that if your video is too long, you're going to lose people's interest. And so I've always tried to create videos that were under 3 minutes. Every now and then I'll get one that's a little over the 3 minute range, though I really try to push myself not to, which is difficult for me because I'm a wordy fella. And one thing I've noticed is that sometimes the only way you can compress your argument into a short format like that is to oversimplify certain things. And it's unfortunate, but it's just a necessity. And so I like to think that I'm making the arguments as clearly and fairly and honestly as I possibly can within that 2 or 3 minutes. But my hope is that after watching the video, people will possibly consider a perspective they hadn't thought of before, and then they'll read more about it. If they just see my video and shape their opinion based around that solely, I would be a little bit depressed.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, I'm going to go over to your Patreon page. And I first want to ask you, I just had a guy a couple days ago called named Sargon of Akkad.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah. And he was telling me about I knew about it already, but I didn't know how widespread it was. The problem with the sudden YouTube demonetization. Did you suffer from that?
Oh, yeah. So technically, YouTube doesn't want you posting too much about these figures. But last month, I had the best month I've ever had on the website. And I gained about 1 million views and 20,000 subscribers. And YouTube gave me $100 for that.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny because the two groups that are really being hurt by YouTube's new advertising model are animators and political commentators, and I do both. So I rely very heavily on Patreon.
Okay, well, listen, I really, really like what you're doing, and I think it's helpful and funny, and it's exactly what we need more of because it can appeal to the person who really doesn't have a dog in these hunts necessarily, but who's hearing a lot of loudmouths take one position, and to see a lighthearted poking fun of that at that position allows that person a liberty to be able to make up his own mind in peace and not feel like I'm going to be shunned by society. Now I feel a little bit supported in my skepticism of this conventional wisdom. So the thing is, I was going to go, this is going to sound totally over the top here, but I genuinely like the goodies that you give away on your Patreon page. So we're on patreon.com. What I'll do is I'm going to put your Patreon link. Patreon, by the way, for people who don't know, is a platform that a lot of content producers use to generate funds for their projects. And then in exchange, they sometimes will give donors access to special goodies and so on and so forth. And I like the goodies on here. So for a little while at least, I'm going to join you at the $100 per month level.
Oh, wow.
Why not?
Thank you.
Why
That's
not?
very generous. Thank you so much.
But you're doing great stuff. And I mean, what am I, we talk all the time about libertarians. Oh, well, if somebody's doing something worthwhile, why people will donate to it. And then none of them do. So I kind of want to show no, people would. So I'm going to do that. I've just clicked on it.
Thank you so much.
And I've never used Patreon before, actually. This is the very first time I've ever used it. So I have to sign up for the whole thing. So I won't do that with everybody sitting here on the air. But so tell me, in addition to doing this, you also do client work?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm a full-time student. I also do client work.
Hold on a minute. You're a full-time student?
Yeah, yes. Full-time student. I do client work, and I run the YouTube channel.
What are you studying?
Animation production.
Well, okay, at least it makes sense, right? If you said sociology, I was going to punch you in the face.
Reach right through the computer. Actually, gender studies. So
there you go. At least you'll know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
Actually, the more you study,
know what they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. The more you study, the less you know what they're talking about.
Exactly. No, I mean, I'm at an art school, so basically just as good.
I'm
just as employable as a gender studies major, and my professors have similar political attitudes. Some of them, I should say. I have a lot of really cool professors, to be honest.
But do you feel like some of your fellow students are people you better shut up around?
I never feel the need to shut up, Tom.
Oh, wow. That is great to hear.
So I should feel the need to shut up. Now, whether or not I should feel the need to shut up is a different question. I'm just the kind of person who's a bit too proud to step down from a good argument when it presents itself. And so I do end up debating other students, but not quite as often as I had anticipated when I decided to go away to art school. I had figured there would be far more outspoken neo-progressive lefties here. And fortunately, there aren't. There's a general attitude that floats around, and I think people are afraid to say certain things that might challenge that orthodoxy. But when you get people behind closed doors, professors included, you'll hear some pretty conservative stuff that they wouldn't say unless they were feeling vulnerable with you.
Huh. Okay. Fair enough. One last thing.
Sure.
When did you talked about how you got started in this, but when did you become a libertarian? How long did that process take? And was there a light bulb that went on, or was it something gradual, or what?
That's a good question. I would say it was a little bit more gradual. When I was in high school, I was very involved in politics because I actually had been since probably middle school, possibly even elementary school. My parents introduced me to some of these issues very early on, and I came from a Catholic family. I still practice the faith, and we were more conservative. And so I remember going off to high school. It was my final year, or the year before my final year, I believe. It was the 2012 election, and this stoner in my Spanish class was always talking about this guy named Ron Paul. And so I decided to look into this fella, and he made a lot more sense than I had anticipated he would. And so I started absorbing more of his arguments, and I was involved in our school's election night coverage because we had a cable access station where we were required to cover certain community events, including major events like elections. And I represented the Republican side the year that Romney ran. And I was making some arguments that I maybe didn't feel were consistent because I wanted smaller government, and I knew the Republican Party wasn't actually working towards that. So at the end of the night, after Romney had lost the election, and after I was completely exhausted from all the mental gymnastics it took to support his position, I decided, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to vote for the lesser of two evils if I don't have to. If somebody like Ron Paul were in this election, at least as a Republican, I would be honored to give him my vote. And I knew at that moment that it would probably be more ideologically consistent to refer to myself as a libertarian as opposed to a Republican.
So once you get out of school then, given that you have had some success with libertarian videos and you are a libertarian in large part thanks to Ron Paul, what do you imagine yourself doing with your animation? Do you want to do more of this, or do you want to just work for clients, or what?
Oh, no, I want to do a whole lot more of this. I use client work to sort of pay the rent when I need to. And also there are some clients I genuinely enjoy working with and would continue the relationship with, even if I was in a position where I didn't need to. Fee is an example of this. But my dream is to end up in a place where I'm able to produce my own animated content, leaning politically, without needing to seek out clients. That's sort of my dream in all this.
Yeah, and man, wouldn't that be a glorious thing?
It would be.
To achieve. Yeah. Man, what a life you'd have.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, listen, what is the do you have a website, you have a YouTube channel, what else have you got? You're on social media?
Yes, I'm on Facebook, so facebook.com/Freedom Toons, Toons. I also have the YouTube channel. Just look up Freedom Toons on YouTube. You can check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Freedom Toons. I'm also on Twitter. That's just Seamus Coughlin. It's just my name.
Okay.
I have a website, but it's freedomtoons.net, and it's not public yet.
Okay. All right. So we'll put everything. I'll put what you do have available at tomwoods.com/922. And maybe I'll put one or two video. I'll put the Julie Borowski video up, and I'm going to put that straw man video up, which I think deserves more views.
Yeah, thank you. Put as many up as you want.
They're really fun. It's going to make you want to click through to the channel and watch more. Well, congratulations. I mean, really, I don't know how you're balancing everything you're balancing. I mean, like, I hope you're not going to have a nervous breakdown.
Oh, we're already past that point.
Okay. Way too late. Okay. Well, anyway, it's really tremendous what you're doing. And plus, I love talking to somebody who has a talent that I just don't have. There's no way I could do what you're doing.
No,
and that's what makes you great. Because I bet there are probably a lot of libertarian podcasts out there, but there aren't a lot of libertarian animators. And we need people like you doing what you're doing. And I'm glad you're doing it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And I also want to say that it's really something I love doing. And as I mentioned, I hope to be able to do this full time. And donations like yours really do help bring me one step closer. So thank you so much. And thank you for having me on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for listening. See you next week.
Become a smarter libertarian in just 30 minutes a day. Visit tomwoods.com to subscribe to the show for free, and we'll see you next time.
Guns, the loud killer. Or, why you should support gun control and why the only people who don't want restrictions on the Second Amendment are child-killing right-wing bigots.
Look, I believe just as much as the next guy in protecting our children, but gun restrictions have proven to be ineffective. In the words of Ben Franklin, those who would trade safety for liberty deserve neither and will lose both.
Ben Franklin was a brainwashed NRA bigot. Plus, if the Founding Fathers were so smart, how come they're dead? Gun violence, that's why. Did you hear about the most recent mass shooting? Let me stand on graves and manipulate your emotions for a moment. The shooting was done with an AR-15, also known as the ghost gun. Called that because it turns people into ghosts. The AR-15 ghost gun has a 2 trillion round clip, fires 500,000 bullets per microsecond, and if you think that's bad, you haven't even heard about the bullet button. One press of that sucker and you unlock the cheat code for unlimited ammo and invincibility. Even worse, free AR-15s are being distributed with every pre-order of Call of Duty, and AR-15 ghost guns are being delivered to mental health facilities by the NRA as part of their Kill Children program.
The preceding information may be entirely untrue.
We need to do something about automatic weaponry.
Actually, fully automatic weapons are illegal and have been illegal for many years, and most crime isn't committed with AR-15s, it's handguns.
Plus, violent crime has been decreasing for years.
And almost all of gun violence is the product of gang violence in leftist-run cities. The likelihood of actually being killed in a mass shooting is extremely low. Extremely low? Have you not heard there were 355 mass shootings in the U.S. this year?
355? That's ludicrous. Who would believe that?
Well, NPR, PBS, HuffPo, Vox, Washington Post, New York Times, MSNBC, and CBS believe it. Where did they get this information? From Reddit, so you know it's trustworthy. The info came from a subreddit which was turned into a website called MassShootingTracker.org. Take a look at these terrible shootings. Oh, and almost half of them, not a single person died. It's almost like they weren't actually mass shootings. Wow, it looks like America has the safest mass shootings in the world. In fact, our mass shootings are so safe that we're willing to call 3 or more people being shot with a BB gun a mass shooting. In the US, there have been 14 trillion mass shootings in the last half hour. But it doesn't have to be that way. Look at Australia. Australia is a land where everything is trying to kill you. Except guns, of course, because they got rid of them. Huzzah for Australia, a country which saw a plummet in violence after its gun ban. Ignore the fact that this is a continuing trend in which gun violence in Australia was decreasing at an identical rate before guns were banned. And seriously, who needs an AR-15 for hunting? Or self-defense?
A simple handgun works. You don't need a ghost gun.
Well, actually, the AR-15 is one of the most popular hunting rifles, and they're great for home defense, too. Not only that, but inner-city shop owners especially need AR-15s to protect their stores and families in case of riots when journalists irresponsibly rile up racial tensions.
Ugh, it's justified outrage. Get over it.
Look, not only are you losing the arguments on home defense and hunting, but even if you weren't, the Second Amendment isn't about those things. It's about the ability to rebel against tyranny.
That's paranoid and insane. The government will never become tyrannical.
What do you think of Donald Trump?
He's literally Hitler. He wants to put Muslims and women in FEMA camps. The Constitution was talking about the militia, by the way, not the people. And militia translates to government military.
What? No, it doesn't. The people are the militia. And why would any government need to give itself the right to own guns in a founding document?
I'm done with this conversation, you right-wing, pro-NRA, anti-child, anti-woman, death-loving bigot. You may have been taken in by these pro-violence hate facts, but I have enough faith in the public to trust that they will believe the objective and logical truths I propose. Guns are icky. The government was giving itself the right to own guns with the Second Amendment. AR-15s are useless for home defense and hunting, but are also the most dangerous and effective killing machines ever created. Governments never become tyrannical. Trump is Hitler, and if he wins, our government will become tyrannical. And if by some stretch you're able to poke holes in any of these airtight arguments, get ready for me to fall back on this. The Constitution is a living document, which means it says whatever I want it to say. The NRA disagrees. They think the Constitution is dead. Why? Because they shot it, that's why. But it survived. The question is, will our children survive? I am peeing! What? You can't pee here? I can pee wherever I want! I am transgender! Who are you to tell me where I can go potty?
There is only one gender!
Sir? Ah! Wrong pronoun! My current pronoun is Zip! You, Zip, will never change your gender! Ah! Wrong pronoun again! My current pronoun is Zip! Ah! Zipper? How can you expect me to remember all of that? How dare you! You can remember the name of several Pokemon, but you can't remember an ever-changing list of all 6,840,942 of my pronouns! Of your pronouns? Yes! It would take a lifetime to list off my pronouns in your earthly language. I privilege you with mere abbreviations. For now, you can call me Zip-a-dee. Zip-a-dee, how can you continue to add more to your pronouns? Zip-a-dee? Those were my pronouns 5 seconds ago. My pronouns are Zip-a-dee, do. I am sick of you right-wing terrorists making me feel unsafe! But Zippity-doo, how can— Zippity-doo? Zippity-doo? You bigot! You should anticipate the changes in my pronouns just as you should mindlessly accept the changes in our ever-shifting social structures! Why are you oppressing me and depriving me of basic human decency? Zippity-doo-bopper, I am trying to predict the changes in your pronouns! Zippity-doo-bopper? No! Zippity-doo-bopper-da-ba! Zippity-doo-bopper-doo-bopper Scott! Zippity-boppity-boopity-boppity-boppity-bop! Boppity-boopity-boopity-boppity-boppity-boppity! Zippity-doo-boppity-boppity-shoo-boppa-doppa-doppa-doppa-doppa-zippity-booppa-da! Zippity-boppity-boopity-bop!
Why you should continue to fund Planned Parenthood and why the only people who don't want their money funding us are anti-women or crazy religious nuts.
I'm pro-choice, but Planned Parenthood profits $90 million on their own. I don't think they need my tax money.
What a bigot!
Planned Parenthood is a wholesome organization which no pro-choice person or non-right-winger could ever take issue with. Look, we provide mammograms.
Mammograms may not be available at overwhelming majority of clinics.
Planned Parenthood was founded by all-American hero Margaret Sanger. Some woman-hating radicals may point out that she was a eugenicist who literally wanted to wipe black people off of the face of the planet and founded Planned Parenthood for the purposes of racial hygiene. But these people are obviously misogynist. And yes, to this day, Planned Parenthood may abort and sterilize blacks at a disproportionately higher rate than whites, but that's just because of economic circumstances. Take our word for it.
Cops may shoot blacks at a higher rate than whites, but that's because blacks tend to live in low-income, crime-heavy areas. It's not hatred or oppression, it's just logistics and economics.
What a terrible excuse made by a bigot.
I may abort blacks at a higher rate than whites, but that's because they tend to live in low-income, crime-heavy areas. It's not hatred or oppression, it's just logistics and economics.
Wow, what a great point. It's clear to see that an organization founded with the intention of sterilizing everyone who wasn't rich or white surely deserves $540 million tax dollars a year. Only anti-feminist woman haters would disagree.
I'm ethically opposed to abortion, and I don't think I should be forced to fund a facility which provides it.
You fool, abortion only makes up 3% of Planned Parenthood services. How do we keep this number so low? This is Sally. Like 1/8 of women who enter a Planned Parenthood facility, Sally's here for an abortion. But first, we're going to give her a pregnancy test just to double check. That counts as a service. Now only half of what she's here for is an abortion. And we'll give her one of our condoms and a Plan B pill. Look, 2 more services. Yes, abortion makes up 37% of our total revenue. But technically only 1/4 of what Sally came to us for was the abortion itself. Only 25% of the abortions we provide are abortions. I'm sure you've also heard that we were caught on camera selling, donating fetal tissue, but those videos were edited. And even though by edited I mean cut down for length because each video was several hours long, and even though the full videos are available online for anyone to watch, we're still sticking with the story that the camera was lying and that we're telling the truth. Yes, our representatives may have been haggling over the price and calling the recouping of costs price negotiation, but really, we weren't selling the parts, we were just giving them away. For money. Only crazy loony right-wing religious nuts take issue with this. There's no way an atheist, libertarian, or moderate liberal would ever see this as anything but normal behavior. Are we fazed by this recent video evidence? Of course not. Planned Parenthood has a long history of cameras telling lies about us. Like when at several facilities, hidden cameras captured our employees serving a pimp advice on how to cover up his sexual abuse of a 13-year-old girl. Naturally, the only people who believed these lies were woman haters and religious nuts. But don't be surprised. These are the same credulous fools who consistently believe the lies told by 3D ultrasounds. So remember, if anyone from any end of the political spectrum, pro-life or pro-choice, questions anything we do or have done, and if anyone dares suggest an independently wealthy company doesn't need $540 million tax dollars a year, it's just because they're a racist, sexist, homophobic, anti-woman, anti-science, religious zealot bigot. Planned Parenthood is a government-funded organization. Therefore, whenever we get caught doing anything terrible, it's never about the evil thing we were doing. It's always about attacking the people who caught us doing it.
Freedom Toons.
Welcome to the Echo Chamber. I'm your host, Dr. Mack. In today's news, a poll shows Obama's, praise be unto him, approval rating is down 3 points. This poll also clearly displays that racism in America is up 3 points. And if that's not enough to convince you of a white supremacist conspiracy, hear this. Yet another barbaric act of racism occurred recently when a group of white police officers did a literal drive-by in a black neighborhood. Here to talk about it, we have a real black person and a dirty Uncle Tom.
I think police brutality is a serious issue and can certainly be racially motivated. But in the media, you almost all seem to overlook the idea that it could be an issue of government power. And I think you're overplaying race and exaggerating events here. I mean, it wasn't a literal drive-by, and the police officer was actually black.
Yeah, but he was still acting in the name of white supremacy.
Yeah, but the guy he shot was white.
Look, you're gonna have all these racist white people trying to justify white cops doing a drive-by on black people by saying things like, oh, it wasn't a drive-by, and oh, the cop was black, and the dude he shot was white. But that doesn't mean this wasn't a white supremacist hate crime.
Really? That's something only racist white people would say? Then why would I say it, genius?
That's because you're a racist white person.
You honky!
Cracker, I'm not saying race is never a factor here. I'm saying the media overplays race in order to increase division and to take focus off of government power, because your news outlets are all bought and sold by various corporations which influence legislation and sustain themselves off of the very government power that leads to millions of petty laws that require the use of police force to uphold in the first place. So really, you're just as much a part of the problem as anyone, and scapegoating white people isn't gonna absolve you.
Why do you hate black people?
The guy he shot was white.
You didn't answer the question, Julius.
Typical racist, dodging questions.
Just because a black guy shoots a white person doesn't mean it wasn't a hate crime against black people.
Literally, it does though.
You are so uneducated. Black people are behaving in the interest of white supremacy when they kill people. The skin color of the victim is irrelevant.
That's right. In fact, this disturbing trend of black people shooting white people proves white supremacy and anti-black hate crimes are on the rise.
It's really so hard for me to see these kinds of stats and still feel safe, Mac.
What? No, if those stats are true, it proves the opposite.
No, because society is driven by racism due to slavery.
That was 150 years ago.
Ugh, 150 years ago is only a few generations. That kind of horrific systemic hatred doesn't disappear overnight, which is why you need to vote Democrat.
But the Democratic Party pushed for slavery, lynching, Jim Crow, and some of them even filibustered the Civil Rights Act. What happened to all that institutional racism in the Democratic Party?
It disappeared overnight. What are we on trial here? That was like 150 years ago.
That doesn't even make sense.
Look, it's as simple as this. The power structures are white. Therefore, if you side with the power structures like a dirty Uncle Tom, that makes you a white person. I'm against the power structures, so I'm the blackest person here. Cracker. Ow! Hate crime! Hey, you bunch of deplorables, it's Dr. Mac. I have a PhD in lesbian poetry, and I'm here to debunk your right-wing hate facts. If you want to contribute to my show, please donate on Patreon. Otherwise, I'll have to move to PBS, and then you'll be paying for my show whether you like it or not.
Freedom Toons.
So you've supported, like, this really racist idea that healthcare should not be for free? And I just wanted to ask about that.
Okay, so here's how this works, gang. Honestly, if you can't see that a universal healthcare system is bad for America, you're wasting my time, okay? Okay, folks, so the healthcare cost crisis didn't actually begin until the government got involved by creating Medicare and Medicaid, because when you artificially stimulate demand, there's no incentive to lower price. Not to mention, you are not entitled to the product of somebody else's labor. That's called slavery, gang, okay? This is what would actually happen under a universal healthcare system. Here's what a single-payer healthcare system would actually do, okay, folks? It would actually make doctors literal slaves who would have to live in cabins on a plantation somewhere. All right, folks? And the idea that doctors are just your slaves who you can marry without their consent and then make half doctor, half regular people babies with. Okay, well, then what happens to the babies? Are they now doctors? Are they slave doctors who have to be doctors, or are they free? Like, now what, gang? Okay, so that's why that system would just never work.
But I should just get healthcare. I should just get it for free.
And that's how you talk to a leftist.
If you like this cartoon, please support Freedom Toons on Patreon and get access to behind-the-scenes stuff and other perks. Okay, so this is my current understanding of human history based on what I've learned in sociology class. So, back in the day, long time ago, everyone's living in nature. And it's dandy. It's just dandy. Everyone's walking around outside, there's berries on the floor, food was everywhere, it was super easy to get it. So things were super simple back then. Men's purpose was to just go out and hunt, and women's purpose was to gather berries and herbs and die during childbirth. You didn't have to worry about your wife getting old and ugly because she's gonna die when she's 25, right? You know, you die when you're 30 because you chipped a tooth, but it's cool because you're going to join your wife who died during childbirth. The kid's dead because most of them didn't survive infancy, and that's sort of the end of your lineage. But, like, you didn't have to have a job and stuff, and there was, like, no capitalist cis heteropatriarchy, so it was pretty nice. Anyway, women were treated just as good as men. Women had safe and legal Stone Age abortions.
if they didn't want the kid. Or you would just kill the infant after it was born if you couldn't feed it. But my point is, things were great. Things were great. But then check this out, right? You've got these bozos that are like, oh, you know what? What if, like, oh, we had a division of labor and people best suited for certain tasks completed those and we progress society, right? And then some dude's like, oh, let's invent farming, and we won't have to search and hunt for everything, we domesticate animals, right? And so then they're like, then they get this other brilliant idea, they're like, oh, what if we build our own shelter? These people are like, ah, man, we were just cool sleeping outside, eating berries off the ground, because that was super nice, and now we have to pay rent and stuff? These people just invented rent? And so you have the birth of capitalism, which is a super evil system, right? They build this system where the guy who builds the hut gets paid and compensated for building the hut when he should just give it away for free because I'm special and I should just get it. I should just get it for free. So anyway, yeah, so my professor mentions like they're making all these rules just to be lame because rules are lame and they're lame. There's no practical purposes, and the whole point is we need to strip down these rules so that we can get back to when things were good and happy all the time.
Welcome to Planned Parenthood, where we provide many valuable services, including mammograms, condoms, birth control, mammograms, Plan B pills, and did we mention we provide mammograms? Hello, customer. Would you like a mammogram?
I'm here for an abortion.
You get a mammogram! The mammogram was invented in 1966 by Planned Parenthood's founder, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is why mammograms are not available anywhere else in the world. We're the only group providing them.
Planned Parenthood does not own or operate a single licensed mammogram at any clinic.
That's right, folks. Only Planned Parenthood has the top secret mammogram recipe. Huh? Where'd it go?
Yes, I've got the secret recipe.
The Mam Burglar!
Curses, you've foiled my mammogram-stealing plot.
Unfortunately, this isn't a rare occurrence. Every day, hundreds of pro-lifers assemble to protest mammograms specifically. They couldn't be protesting anything else. What else would they be protesting? What else are we doing that they could possibly be protesting besides mammograms? Who knows? I don't know. No one knows. Here at Planned Parenthood, we have a saying. Mammogram, mammogram, mammogram. Mammogram, mammograms. Woman's health, mammogram.
Except they don't provide mammograms.
Well, we don't really provide woman's health either.